Is Ksenia Svetlova. She's a member of the Knesset representing the opposition coalition Zionist Union. In Tel Aviv, we have Neri Zilber. He's a fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy and a former executive with the World Jewish Congress. And completing our panel is Bar-Yoshafat. He's the deputy director of the Kohelet Policy Forum, an Israeli think tank. Ksenia, let me begin with you. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says this is yet another futile investigation. It's a contrived bubble that will burst. Is he right?
Well, the Prime Minister knows what to say in this situation. It's not the first time that he is being investigated. And his formula is quite, quite obvious. He will accuse everybody that is now is engaged in the persecution, in the following, these details that they are lying. Then he will deny, that he said it. Then he will continue with denying all the allegations. And then he will blame the media, the police, the Supreme Court, and basically everybody who dares to, say that he is involved in some wrongdoing. So this is the formula. This is how he works. I think it's quite clear today that when we are discussing yet another charges that now might be brought against him, that I think that Benjamin Netanyahu, who said exactly 10 years ago, he said that the Prime Minister who is involved in so many investigations cannot, allow to continue. He cannot be allowed to continue the ruling of the government. He should resign. He said it about Olmert. He should follow his own words.
Okay, so Bar-Yoshafat, he said it about Olmert. Why doesn't he follow his own words and do the dignified thing and resign?
I think we need to understand that in Israel, if the Prime Minister resigns, that means that the whole government resigns. What if you're wrong? What if he's not corrupt? So you just change the government without a proper procedure of election. I'm saying just like Israel is a country under law and every citizen can be put on trial, even the Prime Minister, let the Prime Minister have his day in court. Maybe he's not guilty. Furthermore, there's an appeal process. So only until we were done with the legal procedure, like any other citizen, then you can say what will happen. What is the pressure of asking him to resign? What good would come out of this?
Interestingly, 45% of Israelis, Neri Zilber, in that Channel 2 poll, say that he should resign even before the Attorney General makes up his mind. What does that suggest? Has Netanyahu lost all political momentum, whether the courts agree with him or not?
Well, I think it suggests that depending on your political point of view, you either demand that the Prime Minister resign even before there's an official indictment, or you wait and see for the legal process to play out. So I think it's quite a polarizing moment in Israeli politics. And I would add, both guests are correct. There is a lot of cloud of suspicion around the Prime Minister. At the very least, these are moral violations, ethical violations, and at the same time, they might not be criminal. So there's both a legal situation at play as well as a legal situation at play. And right now, to be honest, Netanyahu seems to have at least solidified his political flank as the police and legal process play out.
Right. Ksenia, we have allegations of bribery, fraud, breach of trust. We have the issue with the telecommunications company. Why aren't you comfortable to just sit back and see your opposition implode and let justice take its course?
Well, our position is it doesn't change. It doesn't matter who is now in the government. When Ehud Olmert was in the government, it was the very same members of his government. It was Ehud Barak and Tzipi Livni who demanded that Ehud Olmert should resign, even before the decision of the Attorney General. It was quite clear that, this is how we should behave as somebody who was elected by the people and who works for the people. And this is what we are doing right now. So our position is has nothing to do with politics. It's about morals. It's about ethics. It's about public responsibility. And we will continue to demand from the Prime Minister to take the responsibility for things that he's done and said, by the way, you know, in the last speech that he gave after the recommendations of the police were published, he admitted that, for example, that he intervened in order to close Channel 10 in Israel,
Right.
intervening with the media and trying to close a media channel who was oppositional of him, who was critical of him.
that's
For
pretty
this, you don't need a court. You don't need the decision of the Attorney General.
Yeah, let's actually dip into that and have a little listen to what he had to say. So this is after the police say, hey, we recommend an indictment. This is some of what he had to say. Let's have a little listen.
I will continue to lead Israel responsibly and faithfully for as long as you, the citizens of Israel, choose me to lead. I am certain that the truth will be revealed and that the next elections will be held on schedule. I will earn your trust again.
Ran Bar-Yoshafat, the interesting thing there at the end where he says, I will earn your trust again, isn't that a bit of an admission of guilt?
No, it's not. That's why you have a legal process in a court of law. Now, just so we will be on the same page, Netanyahu has been accused for about a decade, and in the past election he got 30 seats in the parliament. I think that this whole motion of saying you need to send the prime minister home, of course it's a political motive here, nothing else. Otherwise, why would you care about having a long, legal, proper process? And I'm thinking that's what you should have. Doesn't matter if you're right-wing or left-wing. I'm sure every person wants to have a situation where every person has his day in court. A country that does not allow anyone, including the prime minister, to have their day in court is not a democratic country.
Well, Netanyahu didn't think so about Olmert, didn't he?
What Netanyahu said about Olmert, and I will say the same thing about Netanyahu, is that if you're incapable of functioning because you are being investigated so much, I would say the same about Netanyahu. The question that I have is, why is it so urgent to say that he has to resign right now, before anything has even happened? If he will be interrogated for 8 hours a day for like 3 weeks, yes, I would also say he has to resign because he's incapable of functioning as a prime minister. That's a good reason. That is within the Israeli law. It's within the Israeli legal system. But you have to understand, we are not the United States. If the prime minister goes home, you kind of cheated the election. Now, if you want to let the public decide, and you're saying 45% are, very worried about Netanyahu, that means that 55% are still, they still prefer Netanyahu with these accusations than anyone else right now.
Well, it actually said 40% said he should not resign and the rest were undecided. So I just want to quote the whole poll there. So 40% sort of saying no, 45% saying resign, the rest on the fence. Neri Zilber, as we sort of zoom out a little bit and look at the big picture here, have we seen an erosion of trust in the prime minister, in the office of the prime minister throughout this scandal?
Well, I think the office as well as the man have taken a hit. But the Israeli public, I agree, they're taking a wait-and-see approach. And by the way, that has a lot to do with how Netanyahu has handled the last few months under investigation. He's lashed out not only at the police, but also at individual investigators. So in and of itself, that's actually unhelpful, that erodes various democratic norms that we have here in Israel. At the same time, though, there is a legal process that needs to be fulfilled. There's a new case that broke just yesterday, case 4000, which is actually separate than the police recommendations for indictment that came out last week. So something new, something significant might come out tomorrow, the next day, and that might have a public and political impact that we didn't see last week. Yep. So really, we have to be a bit more patient, but Netanyahu himself has to be a bit concerned.
Right. Ksenia, if he's acquitted on all charges, whether case 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, you name it, as the opposition, will you sit back and say, okay, we trust the legal system and business as usual, we will continue?
We definitely trust the legal system, but it's important to stress that until that acquisition happens, we still have a long time to go. And during this time, there will be a lot of question marks about every single decision of Benjamin Netanyahu vis-à-vis the situation in the north. We now have the critical situation in the north and a possibility of confrontation with Syria. We have now aggravated conflict also in the Gaza Strip and the severe humanitarian crisis that is is erupting there. And every single decision by Netanyahu will be, of course, it will be seen through the lens of whether he is doing it for other reasons rather than taking care of the affairs of the state and serving its citizens, but whether he is doing it in order to escape perhaps from another interrogation, another equation, and to, like he said, to earn the trust of the citizens of Israel.
Okay, Bar-Yoshafat, is he wagging the dog when it comes to Lebanon, Syria, fighting Iran by proxy in order to distract from these charges? Ksenia's words, not mine.
I understand. It's a very sad and sarcastic concept to say that the Prime Minister cares so little for the Israeli human life that he will do that. And it's if like Hezbollah and Hamas are not trying to murder Israelis every day. Look, here's the main point. If Netanyahu is corrupt, eventually he will go to jail. But if you are wrong, you made an undemocratic decision and changed the government in an unlegal procedure. And that's what I'm worried about as a citizen. To say that Netanyahu is going to go into what, come on, like Hezbollah are asking to kill Israel every day, same with Gaza, same with Iran. We didn't start anything new here. It's not a new concept that we have our struggle. We live in the Middle East, we have our conflict, and to say that the Prime Minister is so cynical about human life, I think it's a very sad and poor argument. It means that you don't really have a strong legal argument. I trust the court, let them do their stuff, let Netanyahu have a normal procedure like any other citizen in the state of Israel. I'm proud to live in a country where even the Prime Minister can go to jail, but I'm also proud to live in a country where even the Prime Minister has a fair legal process like any other citizen.
Ksenia?
Well, it's crystal clear that those who developed the personality cult of Benjamin Netanyahu, many of them are in the government, will say anything. And will, of course, battle with any argument in this regard in order to defend, the person who is more than one time already, yes, proved that ethically, morally, publicly, he's not fit to be a prime minister. Yes, I am indeed very worried about our situation, in a security sense. And I do believe, that sometimes when the situation is very crucial, when there are a lot of pressures, a prime minister can do wrong decisions. And, I want to remind you of another prime minister of Israel, whom I personally admire, and who took a very brave decision. Back in, the 70s, it was Yitzhak Rabin, who resigned, not, waiting for the, criminal investigation and all of that. When it was found out, that the wife of the ex-prime minister, Yitzhak Rabin, has a sum of the dollars that she was not supposed to have in her account, $2,000 or $3,000. Just that was it. He made a decision to leave the post of the prime minister because he knew that ethically, morally, this is the right decision. This is what I would expect from any prime minister of Israel, from the left, from the right, and from the center.
Okay, Ksenia Svetlova, Neri Zilber, and Bar-Yoshafat. I've got to move on, but thank you very much for joining us here on the Newsmakers.